Yo. Okay, guys. I'm just trying to talk about the what's it called? I'm looking at this dirty ass cup. Okay, the loneliness arc, overcoming your loneliness arc. So it's something that's just been dawning on me because since 2020, I have been building my online business, right? And what I've always wanted to do was create media, right? That's the thing I've always wanted to do since I was a kid, making animations in my bedroom, whatever. So the goal was how can we make media? So since 2020, when I moved to Montreal, there was the pandemic that was happening, and the government was giving out all these, I guess, stimulus checks, essentially, right? The Canadian version of stimulus checks. Everybody was spending theirs. The maximum you could get from the government was about 12,000. Everybody was spending their stuff on dumb stuff, and I decided, okay, you know what? I can spend maybe half of this on dumb stuff. The other half, we should try to do something with it. So I decided to get myself an apartment. I said the other half, the other 6,000, let's use this to build our business. This 6,000 will allow me to eat, sleep, whatever the case, right? Allow me to essentially survive whilst I'm building my business online. So at first, we started off by making animations and graphic design, and then we got into making animations, and I started fiddling around with 3D, and then by the end of that, I started fiddling around with being able to at least to have and hire a team and all these things. So anyway, throughout the last 5 years, I spent it pretty much by myself. Yes, I had friends and homegirls and people that I was like hanging around with, but in that time, I never. They always say entrepreneurship is a lonely road, and to be honest with you, that is 100% true. I would go to parties and stuff. I would hang out with people, but I always felt this sense of like nobody understands or nobody knows what you know what I mean. It's like that's why when you have entrepreneur friends and stuff, you guys are in your own like the circle is so small because the average person doesn't understand what it means to build a business. Most people are comfortable working for themselves, and that is one of those things where it's just like I can't work for somebody. So as I spent these 5 years getting all these skills and obtaining all these things that were able to essentially allow me to work for myself. And throughout this time, I was trying to date and court girls and realizing that most of these hoes, they don't want to be respected. They don't even like it when you're nice to them. They just want to be completely disrespected. They don't have a 5 year plan. Not that I need a shorty to have a 5 year plan, but she doesn't even know what she wants to do with her life, dude. When you ask her, "Hey, what do you want to do with your life?" They tell people, "Oh, he's weird because he's prying and trying to figure out what I want to do with myself." And it's like, excuse me for asking if you want to have a future, right? I hate filler words like always avoid using words like and yeah and things like that. Anyway, so the loneliness arc, right? So as I'm building my business and all these things, I'm realizing that hey, I seem to be in my own little corner doing this. I seem to not really have much people that I can speak about this with. The only people I could really speak about this with was my older brother, seeing as he was also somebody that was also building a business, right? Um, yeah, so I spent the last 5 years doing this, and then I realized I was like, bro, like, was this some sort of test from God? Was this something that was supposed to happen? Am I supposed to feel like this? And then there's two things that come into mind as you're overcoming your loneliness arc in your own life. The right person who's supposed to be for you, one second. The right person that's supposed to be for you will show up when it's time, right? There's that. That's the that's the first thing you need to take into consideration is that the person that's for you when it's time, they will show up in your life. Like Solomon said, the wisest man ever, the demise of any great man is the wrong woman entering into his life, right? So, one second, guys. Let me turn on this thing here so we get some light. There we go. The wrong woman entering into a man's life is detrimental, first. And so, being able to build all these skill sets of understanding what it means to hunt for myself, to be able to find clients for myself, it made me realize that in today's job market where no one is able to get hired, I'm still able to have the skill sets to go and hunt. So if you're asking yourself, why am I alone? Why do I not have any friends? Why do girls not get me? Why do guys not get me? Why do I go to events and parties and feel completely all by myself? It's because you're in a time right now where the skills and the experiences that you're having, they will be of great asset to you later on. Right now, in this current job market, no one is able to get hired. I'm able to take my resume that I spent working for myself for the last 5 years. And the reason why I have to do that is because in the last 2 years, the business completely folded in on itself. I lost all my employees, or at least I couldn't keep them, right? There was no business coming in since the AI boom came and no one wanted to pay money for animations anymore. And so the business had to essentially, it was either everything closes and I completely collapsed the business. And then I said to myself, no, if I completely collapse the business after 5 years like that, then I just become a statistic. I become those statistic of people that say that most businesses fail in the first 3 to 5 years, whatever. And I said, I can't be a statistic. So I decided it's time to pivot. And what was the opportunity that God gave me? Whilst we were doing animations, and I worked with big clients, Disney, Universal, Def Jam, making animations for their artists on their roster, all these things. So whilst I was doing this, I was also doing reaction videos on YouTube on the side. And then my YouTube reaction videos, they started to getting some traction. And it wasn't until 2024, because mind you, remember, we started this in 2020, right? But the YouTube reactions didn't start until about 2022. So it wasn't until about 2 years later, the YouTube reaction videos in 2024, my account actually got monetized. And once my account got monetized, then I said, okay, let me now reach the payment threshold of $100 to actually get that first YouTube check. Because I knew that as soon as I could get that YouTube check, everything would be validated, right? Because once you get that payment, then your idea is validated. So even though the business collapsed of the animation portion, I decided let's keep the studio open and let's pivot from being an animation studio to an entertainment company, a media company. What I've always wanted to do was create media, right? So even the animation studio, that's still media. So I was still a media company, but we now pivoted from being strictly animation to just media. So once that first YouTube check came in October of 2024, 2025, that's when I said my idea is vindicated. And that's when I doubled down on YouTube like no one's business. I was in the Congo, there wasn't enough internet, so I decided to move back to Canada and to double down on everything. And now consistently, we have been making our YouTube payments. Every single month, we get a YouTube check because I was able to double down. And this is just to let you guys know that even though I'm doing this, I'm still going out there to get myself work for my own, for making content for other people on social media and things like that, because the current job market is not allowing people to work. I'm applying for all these marketing jobs because I want to have a large sum of money while I'm making content, so then I can take all that money and invest it in cameras, equipment, all these things that needs to go into making good content on my main channel. This is my third channel. So just to keep this brief, essentially, this loneliness arc that you're going through, look at the positive aspects of it and look at all the skills and assets that you're learning and that you're getting from this. Because when you are looking back and trying to realize, oh, what was this all worth? What did I learn from this? You will have all the clarity that you need. Right now, it might look like it's just tumultuous, but after I was able to sit down for a second and say to myself, well, what was the purpose of this? Like, why? What did this all mean? It seems like there was nothing, nobody understood, but it's like, no, that loneliness was super important because it allowed me to build all these assets and skill sets that I didn't used to have before. So it might seem grim and it might seem dark as you walk this lonely path, but as somebody who is also still walking it with you, we have to look at the positive and say to ourselves, this is all worth it. There's something big is going to come at the end of this journey. All right, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video.